Welcome to another episode of our Founders Podcast. I'm your host, Ash, and this is a show where I interview proven founders and industry experts who share their stories, strategies, and insights to help you build, launch, and grow your business. In this episode, I talk to Sardor, Chief Revenue Officer and Managing Partner at Jafton. Sardar is not your typical tech entrepreneur. He is a serial tech entrepreneur with an impressive track record. Sardar's story goes beyond his role at Jafton. He is also an angel investor, backing companies like Fathom, Asset Grow, and Nutra First. His influence extends to prestigious platforms, and he is the youngest member ever of the Forbes Business Council and the first Uzbek to join the Harvard Business Review Advisor Council. He is also an angel investor, a Forbes Business Council member, and a speaker at prestigious events alongside Mark Cuban and others. Originally from Uzbekistan, he is a self made expert in IT outsourcing and bootstrapping businesses. His topics include tech management, remote team leadership, motivation, and building with minimal funding. So, I hope you enjoy the episode. Okay, Sadar, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Nash.
Great. Do you have a favorite quote, something that inspires or motivates you that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, there's probably a few, but if I were to pick one that kind of summarizes, it's actually something that's right behind me on my wall, right there. That says, yeah, I can't really see it, but it says, easy choices, hard life, hard
Mm-hmm.
choices, easy life, right? So that's just how I try to live my life, like as a motto, like, to show that, when you make easy choices, obviously, life gets harder. Yeah, there it is actually.
There you go.
What
Yeah.
you can't really see it, but it shows how, like, you see how the ball is there, the curved thing. That's
Yeah.
basically like, your hard choices that then like create an easy life, and then the
Mm-hmm.
easy choices create the hard life. Right? That's pretty much my go-to quote. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember my mom used to say if you take pain during the childhood, like study hard, etc., your life will be easier later. So something on the lines,
100%.
I guess.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Great stuff.
Exactly.
Great stuff. So tell us about Jafton. I know, what does this company do? Who is it for? And what's the main problem you're helping to solve?
Sure. Yeah. So we are an agency. We're an IT outsourcing agency. So we specialize in mobile development. People
Mm-hmm.
come to us when they want to build their mobile application, right? So we help them build that.
Mm-hmm. Great stuff. So let's talk about where the story began. How did you got this idea? Were you a key member of the founder team, or were you somebody who joined in afterwards?
Yep. Yep. So apologize.
Bless you.
Thank you. So yeah, I was actually not the original founder of the company. I
Mhm.
joined in 4.5 years ago to kind of help scale the company. So the company has been around for 10 years, and then I jumped in 4.5 years ago in the sales initially, and then pretty much, there's this model to own the company called manage to own, right?
Mhm.
So you build up your equity through like your sweat equity by putting in your time and effort and achieving certain results within the business. So that was pretty much how I came to co-own the company to this day.
Mhm. Oh, that's interesting. So, would you be able to explain a little bit more about this model? Because a lot of our listeners are aspiring founders, or they are into accelerator programs, and they would love to know and understand how this model works.
Absolutely, yes. So there's two ways to start or get a company of your own, right?
Mhm.
One is just to start from scratch, which you're going against the odds. Whatever your business you're starting, it may be a great idea or bad. Generally, your odds of success are pretty much against you because 75% of small businesses fail within the first 3 years, right? That's just stats. And then with startups, it's actually even higher. If you're doing a risky brand new idea startup, actually 90% of startups fail, right? So how do you mitigate that risk is, there's this concept that's called the Lindy effect, which means the longer something has been in existence
Mhm.
already, the longer it is likely to exist for even longer from there, right? So obviously not applicable for perishable goods, but if a company has been around for 5 years, it is more likely to exist for another 5 years or more than a company that has not been around at all or has been only around for 6 months, right?
Mm.
So it's just statistics, that's just why you would have to do it. Now, how you do it is, you know, you can either come and purchase equity directly in the company, and that
Mm-hmm.
one you can also do very flexibly, like through seller financing or things like that. Or you can actually come and say, hey, I will help you manage this company, help you grow this company as a member.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I achieve X in this business, I will unlock Y, and
Mm.
so on and so on. It's like you have to have that clear agreement, right? And then let's say on a hypothetical example, if a company is doing $1 million in profit every year, and you say, hey, you know what? I know how to get you from 1 million to 2 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, this company will make 2x the profit, which means it's
Yeah.
twice as bigger, right? Then there's spot for another person. So you'll say, hey, if I double your sales, you give me 50% equity, for example, right?
Mm.
Simple as that.
Mm.
Then why not? If the company is bigger together, then why not have two owners instead of one, right? But you
Yeah.
didn't have to do it from scratch. Making $1 million from scratch is harder than to
Mm.
take $1 million company and make it a $2 million company. It's easier, but it's the same thing. You see, in first case,
Mm.
you're making $1 million. In the second case, you're making $1 million. But the second case is much easier.
Much easier. That's really eye opening, because in the second case you already have a proven service or product which is already adding value to customers life. You already have the whole, I guess, the supply chain, or the funnels in place. The
Yep.
things which you have to do is you add a layer on top of whatever their cycle of conversion of making profit is, and then
Yep.
bring more business to them. This is really interesting. Is this something which you have done recently with Jafton, or have you done it with other companies also?
Yeah, I kind of have done it with the other company as well previously. So I've added value to a sport nutrition company and came to co-own it as well the same way. A
Mm.
little bit different. I helped to cut the cost and like increase the sales, but more so on the supply side at that time. I was there's a story of like when I was in college. I used to run this small logistics company that was not
Mhm.
making too much money, but I had a client that was selling a lot of sport nutrition. And when I realized that his way of sourcing the product was not efficient, he was not buying directly from the brand, but rather from a retailer. I
Mm.
reached out directly to the brand. I found better pricing. I added value, and I came to co-own the same company, same way. So this is my second story of getting into business like without like, investing my own money.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
So it's it's a framework you have developed to actually acquire or be a part of big companies
Yes.
without actually investing any money. And when it comes to developing their business or business development, how do you figure out? Because um, running a application or mobile application development company is different than a
Yes.
logistic company, right? So how do you
Right.
do look
Yeah,
out?
of course. It depends on exactly. It depends on like what is the most valuable for a company. I mean, for any company at the end of the day, you can talk about the metrics all day. You can talk about MRR charts, right? How the MRR is growing or how user base is growing. But at
Mm,
the end of the day, for every business, what is one most important number? What is it?
mm.
It's profit, right?
Profit,
No matter how
indeed.
much revenue you made, no matter how many users you have, the end of the day, what matters is what's the profit, or at least what's the projected profit potential, right?
Mm,
So when you come in and you're able to clearly increase the profit, that's value added, right? So how you do it can be done in different ways. For the app development agency, I've done it through increasing the sales. For the
mm,
logistics company, I didn't really increase the sales. I actually cut the cost of goods. That's
mm.
also a way of making more money. You could be selling the same amount of items, but making more money from each. If you're buying this water bottle at $1, now you're buying it at 75 cents. That's 25% more profit. That's pretty much what I did
Indeed.
with the logistics company, because I found a better pricing. I said, okay, let's just buy from here instead of from here.
Mm.
And that's how I added value to the business, right? So
Yeah.
you have to be creative and really look into how is this business operating, what is their P&L, and why are they spending this much money and not that much, and why are
Mm.
they selling this much and not that much, right? And then ask yourself, how can I get the sales up? Ideally, you got to do both, right? How do I get the sales up, and how do I get the cost down? Actually, with the app development company, within time, I was able to bring in an idea and technology that actually reduced our costs as well. So not only did I increase the sales, but also was able to help decrease the cost as well within time.
Mm. And that was my second part of the question. Like, when you want to help someone, when you want to help an organization in order to either uh, get them into more profitable or more revenue spectrum, or if you want to get them into a shape where they want to
Yeah.
invest less, what are the key factors you look for into the company portfolio before
Mhm.
approaching?
Obviously, first of all, their P&L statement, right? The profit and loss, how much are they bringing in, how much are they spending, and then
Mhm.
look into where is that money coming from. First, where's the
Mhm.
revenue coming from, and can I do? There's always let's start with the sales, right? The input, the incoming money, right? Not the one that's being spent. And what do you do there? Like, you look at the input and output of that. For example, if you're making $500,000 a month sales, then you got to look, okay, what is that? Where's that sales coming from, right?
Mhm.
Okay, are we buying leads? Are we generating leads? Okay, how much are we spending on lead generation? Let's say we're spending $10,000. Okay, then
Mhm.
you ask, okay, if we spent $20,000 and just doubled the amount of leads, would we double the business, right? Sometimes it's as simple as that. You look at it and you're like, yes, if I double the amount of leads, I double the business, right? But
Mhm.
then most likely it's not as simple. You'll have to probably double the amount of salespeople, increase the salaries, things like that as well. So it's not super straightforward like that,
Mhm.
but it can be done. If you look at it again more closely. And then the second part is you look at what are the expenses, right? You look at can we cut the expenses if we what Elon Musk did with Twitter, right? He laid off 80% of people, and he's
Yeah.
still achieving actually more results now with 20% of people, because it's actually a funny thing. People on the internet are making joke that he literally took the Pareto principle, the 80-20, and
Yeah.
applied it directly in the business, because as it states, 20% of your efforts give 80% of results, right? He realized, okay, who are the 80% of people that are not really giving the result? Let's cut them out.
Mm.
and then just leave the 20% that are performing. I think every large business has some kind of an overhiring issue, right?
Mm.
Or
Mm.
some sort of inefficiency, whether that's overhiring or overpurchasing or overspending. There's always some expenses that can be cut if you look at it carefully. So I don't have one set formula, but it's generally this general framework I follow, right?
Mm.
Super simple. Like, look at incoming money, try to increase that. Look at outgoing money and try to decrease that. Simple as that.
Awesome. That's really good. And I want to go into your roots, your experiences, and other influences in your circle. But before going into that, once you have set up this understanding of, okay, this is the company. I have analyzed their P&L. I have analyzed what kind of deficiencies they have, and this is how I can improve it. How do you get your feet into the door? Because that's what's important, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, you can't just probably come into business and just say, "Hey, I'm gonna come and turn you around." Although that's possible as well. That's not unheard of.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do now. Actually, we're planning to go and acquire other app development agencies to roll
Mhm.
them up and add it to the Jafton, as a holding. But yeah, I think when you're more experienced, you can actually come in and do that with strangers. But when
Mm.
you're just starting, you got to do it with your closest people. You got to do it with the people that are around you, who are your friends and family that run businesses that you know, or their friends that they could introduce you to, right? It, the first deal has to go through trust and relationship, because both sides can get burned. If you're not experienced, you can get burned. If they're not experienced, they can get burned. So how do you trust those people is just start it with the people that you already know. So for me, the first business, the sport nutrition,
Mm,
he was already my client that I trusted, and he trusted me.
mm,
We've done like small transactions, but we have a history, right? We have a
yeah.
history. Um, it's actually interesting how, one thing can lead to another, like, right? Like I was running a small, very not profitable business, not super profitable. It was very, very little profit. But then
Mm-hmm.
that unlocked me a relationship that led to another profitable business, through
Mm,
that, right? So it can be a gateway. But and the same thing with the second business, with the app development agency. My now business partner, he was my mentor at the time, and just helping me with things because I met him through a common introduction, through a common friend, right?
mm-hmm.
And we were in touch. We were like, always in touch. I was always supporting the relationship because I knew this is a key person for me, right?
Mm,
So I would say short answer is relationships. Look at your relationships first. Do it with
mm.
your close people in your network, and then once you become professional and more experienced, then you can do it with strangers and come in and tell them, hey, I'm going to take over your business, and this is my terms, and that can work as well, I think.
Indeed, yeah. Relationships are the keys, and what I have learned from um, running some SaaS businesses, and particularly this podcast from last three seasons, is when you meet people, and we host like monthly events in London to meet and greet other entrepreneurs locally available. It's totally different than when you send them an email or
Yep.
just cold marketing out. So it's really really important. Okay, great. So I'm eager to learn more about you, Sarah, the person behind this innovative approach. Can you take us back to your roots? Share some of our some share with our listeners about your upbringing, your childhood. How did your early experiences shaped your journey and eventually led you to become the visionary entrepreneur today?
Sure. Yeah. So I come from family in Uzbekistan. I only came to the U.S. 9 years ago, so I currently live in Miami, Florida. But I grew up in Uzbekistan, in the capital, Tashkent.
Hmm.
And my parents, my mom was at the time, she was like stay at home, but she was also helping my dad. But he's always been an entrepreneur. He still is, like, to this day. And that kind of inspired me to go into business and entrepreneurship, because I looked at my dad. He was my like role model and example. Um, and then yeah, my parents always, what I liked about their method of upbringing is they always allowed us like complete freedom, almost, like where we could explore and do whatever we want, and there was never an objection that, hey, you got to become a doctor, or you have to become a this, that. Like, they always gave us full freedom with that, which is what I'm grateful for. And then, my how I ended up in the US is just, I got a scholarship to attend a private high school here in
Hmm.
Massachusetts, and that's how I came here as a student, and then I stayed here pretty much after college.
Awesome, awesome. What's your favorite place in Miami?
Well, I live in Edgewater. I like this place, but I like Brickell better.
Awesome. I've been there once and I love South Beach. It's like the
Yeah.
place for me to sit down, during the sunset and have a beer. It's like the best.
Yes. Yeah, South Beach is definitely a great place. It's just like to visit, it's awesome, but to live, it's a little
Yeah,
harder because it's more
I
touristic.
guess.
Yeah.
I guess it's a touristic place for
Yes.
us, like
Yes.
travel there. Okay, great stuff. So can you give us the size of the business, where you are in terms of revenue, number of customers, size of the team in Jafton?
Yeah, sure. So we're currently, like I said, I've been in business for 10 years. So we're about 120 people right now.
Hmm.
Um, you know, revenue wise, not quite ready to open up, but
Sure.
if we were to sell, we'd probably be valued at, 8 figures right now. So pretty stable revenue, growing year over year, probably about at least 50% year over year growth.
Hmm.
Um, not as much in headcount anymore. We're not over hiring, but the revenue is growing. It has ups and downs, obviously, but
Mhm.
it overall in a longer term chart, it's been growing for sure.
Great stuff. And could you define your ideal customer profiles for us, and tell us more about that? What kind of customers you work with generally or mostly, and then what differentiate your customers with others whom you don't want to work with?
Sure. Yeah. So, good question. So for us, the ICP right now is probably mid-size business to enterprise size businesses. That ideally they already have a web version of their project, and now they
Hmm.
want to build a mobile app
Hmm.
to that. So that's our ideal customer. Like, to give you an example, one of our customers is a CRM company that has a web-based CRM,
Hmm.
and they actually want to add a mobile app. And we built the mobile app for them, for their CRM, and now we support them on a monthly basis, for that contract. So that's like an example of that, for our ICP. Yeah.
Okay, okay, and that was like my second question, which was coming, which is like, can you share a compelling case study and highlights how
Mhm.
Jafton or an organization used Jafton solution to achieve a success and solve their key business challenge?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's many different case studies, but I'll tell you one of my favorite ones. We've built an app called Minect, which is the this application that connects experts with people
Hmm.
who want to hire them on a per minute basis. Okay, so you can call people through a video call. You can book a video call with them and pay like a lawyer or a business expert or celebrity to speak to them by minute. Okay, and that application recently surpassed 100,000 downloads.
Hmm.
On track to go over 200,000 downloads. The company came to us originally last year to solve the problem with they had with the other company that was not performing so fast. They were not that good, and they wanted to just speed it up and get a better experience. So we came in to help them. Yeah.
Okay, great stuff. And would you be able to open up to share which technology stacks you guys use normally or generally to develop these apps
Sure.
for your customers?
Yeah, we focus on Flutter. We focus
Hmm.
on Flutter for regular development, and we also do Flutter Flow, which is the low-code Flutter development solution. That's for
Right.
the front end. For the back end, we use either Dart, also Flutter's language, or Python
Hmm.
mainly. Some projects, enterprise projects, we use PHP or Java, but
Right.
mainly it's Python. Yeah.
Nothing like the new main stack or something like what do you call it, Firebase, Supabase,
Oh
these
yeah,
kind of.
we use Firebase, yeah, quite a bit as well for a lot of our MVP projects. We use Firebase,
Mhm.
which is very good for building the backend and database. Yeah.
Okay, great stuff. So now I think what would add more value to our listeners through this episode is if you could tell us more about how much powerful it is for a business to release an app depending upon their business model and their services, whereas compared to just having a web presence. Because what happens is, so we have like four major accelerator programs running in London. One is YC London,
Yep.
another one is Antler, another one is Entrepreneurs First, and then I think the next one which comes into my mind is Barclays Funding Program. Now, what these accelerator programs do is they combine founders from different areas or around the areas in UK and Europe. They invite them for a 12-week program, and then out of this program, they come up with different ideas and they form teams. And these founders are really experienced founders, either from they are coming from some exits from previous companies, or they're coming from some fang companies, and they just tie the knots and then become the founders.
Yep.
What they lack is to understand how they can go to market and then what kind of technologies or platform they should use in terms of acquiring more customers, which is primarily the biggest challenge, I guess, in startup world, isn't it? So according to your experience, what is the percentage division between, if you have your, let's say we niche down to SaaS platform and it has a web presence, and if you wanted to have a app presence on different platforms, and how do you tackle that challenge?
Okay. Yeah. So question is like, how do we tackle challenge of transforming like a web-based project into an app? You're saying?
Yeah, and then how does that actually benefit them? Because a lot of people don't even know that if they have an app,
Yeah.
how it's going to
And
help them.
actually, yeah, my answer is going to be like the not like just propagating an app for everybody. I will actually tell, quite frankly, not every single project needs an app. You know,
Mm,
I think sometimes people actually overestimate and they don't realize that they can get away with a web app. You know, web apps are going to be just fine. And there's this
mm,
technology of PWA, progressive web applications, that are actually pretty good in a lot of cases. But those who do absolutely need an app are the ones that actually are going to use at least some kind of a hardware or um, like the device's own sensors. For example, with the CRM that we built the mobile app for, you know, if it was a CRM that was only used in an office building, and they wouldn't probably need an app, they could just get away with the mobile version of the
mm,
website. But this CRM that we were building an app for is actually meant for the offline use,
mm.
meaning they go it and use it on the field, because the CRM is meant for um, companies that do wholesale, you know,
Right. Yeah.
and distributing for wholesale, right? So imagine a distributor on the field that's going and door to door selling door to door, right? Those people, they need an app, because one of the reviews on that app is this distributor that says, hey, finally I was able to just take an order while sitting in the client's office without having
Mm,
my laptop on me.
mm,
Obviously that increases the sales for their clients, and for
mm,
that CRM company it increases their retention rate and their user satisfaction, because
mm,
that user didn't have their laptop on them, and now they're still able to use the mobile app, right? And they're able to also use the location on the map and use navigations from the app to go and see their clients. So for that, they absolutely need an app, right?
mm,
um, for some others, that is going to be only there's going to be only like a office use. Like we did this project called Cost to Serve, which is a very industry specific like accounting software that helps
mm.
you count the number of like units and like calculate the cost. You don't need a mobile app for that, because you can get away with the desktop, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So anything that's stationary and the use case is going to be in the office, you don't need an app. But everything else, you do need an app.
Mm. And does it also depends upon your approach towards the market, like B2B or B2C, or it
Yes.
again comes back to the same theory as we explained?
Yeah, more like B2B probably needs less apps, but still a lot of B2B still need an app as well.
Hmm.
So it can't be just categorized by B2B or B2C, but it's more like very case by case specific. Yeah.
Case by case specific. Okay, great stuff. Okay, great. So I would like to take a step back and would like to know more about your personal journey in terms of getting into this company and exploring more or unwrapping more about this model you have created. So would you be able to tell us more about how do you, I mean, what process to go through in order to figure out which companies you approach in order to
Yep.
connect with them and then get inside the door. But what is the step by step process after you got inside you follow? Because I am guessing every company has a different structure, right?
Mhm. When you get inside, when you join a company, you're saying like as a
Yeah.
partner.
For
Um,
example,
mhm.
Jafton. What's the
Yeah.
process you made like when you joined in and till this point?
Yeah, you have to define your role initially. For me, it was like just joining in sales and growing the sales, right? So
Mhm.
that's the only thing I focused on. It's important to not lose your focus from one position, because if you're trying to improve one metric, then you
Mm-hmm.
should all day just work on improving that metric. And for me, that metric was revenue. So I worked all day just to increase the revenue for years and years on end. And I didn't do any project management. I didn't do any operations. I didn't do any HR work. And that was helpful because, like, I focused on one thing. So when you're joining a company also, like, it's different when you're taking over the full company. In that case, you might want to hire people that are going to
Mm-hmm.
be in their own roles. But again, when you hire, each employee has to be doing one position and one work. It's probably also another classic startup mistake that startups assign multiple roles to each employee, and that's wrong because it gets them defocused, And when you're joining a company too, you have to look at yourself not just as an owner or as a partner, but also as an employee because you're doing the job too.
Mm.
And there could have been somebody else instead of you doing that job, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and you should apply the same management technique you would apply to an employee to yourself as well as if
Mm-hmm.
you're an employee that's working for you,
Sure.
and just have
Sure.
yourself focused. Yeah.
Okay. So let's move to the next part then. And maybe it's your secret recipe, but how do you actually bring more customers or bring more sales to the organization? What are the strategies? What are the frameworks you adopt or follow, and
Yeah.
what kind of process you're into for that?
Yeah, it really depends on the industry, but overall, every organization has two types of clients, two types of sales, which is one is inbound, another one is outbound, right? My strength is more on inbound, so I know how to get inbound leads. And mainly it's a combination of SEO. SEO long term is always going to work. Whatever business you're in, you need to invest in the SEO, right?
Mm.
Because people want to discover you online if they type in your services, whatever you're selling, like tables or furniture or TVs. You want to pop up first on Google, okay? And that's a
Indeed.
long work. Yep.
Mm.
And that's long term game. In the short term, you can just do ads like Google ads. That's guaranteed to also bring customers because if you just run the proper Google ads, people are going to click again. Because again, as long as your service is being searched on the internet, right?
Mm.
If it's something brand new that nobody is even searching for, then that's a different story, right?
Mm.
But most likely, if you start a business, then people are searching for it, especially if it's a services business, right? So those are the two ways to just quickly bring in the revenue, especially
Mm.
with Google Ads. It's quicker. Other than that, you can also like contract out agencies that do lead generation.
Mm.
There's some agencies that I work with still that just sell me the leads. They just sell me leads, and then they schedule the meetings with, my sales team, and those salespeople they just close the deal. Right. Again,
Mm.
that also combines hiring the right people. Right. If you're not able to hire the people yet, then you can just do the job yourself. Try to close the deals yourself. Take some, courses. But
Mm.
there's companies that will bring you commission-based salespeople. People that are just on the commission, so you
Mm.
have no risk of like paying them a salary. If they don't close the deal, you don't pay them, right?
Yeah.
So there's methods like that would just help you bring in more sales. You have to master the lead generation. I would recommend one practical book called $100 Million Leads to Everybody
Mm.
by Alex Hormozy. That's a brilliant book. It's so practical.
Mm.
Hormozy built $100 million empire, and he shares his methods of generating leads. Okay. And
Right.
then the second book, also called $100 Million Offers, then talks about how to actually close those leads,
Mm.
and how to make the offer so good that people feel stupid saying no. Right. That's exactly how he
Wow.
phrases it.
I
Yeah.
need to add both of them into my reading list.
Yeah. These are must reads for everybody who's in sales.
Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. Okay, so and I'm enjoying this conversation so much that I don't want to end it, but obviously we are reaching towards the end. So what I would like to know is most of our listeners are first time founders. So this is a very big challenge for them to bring in leads, and you have very well explained that you could do outbound and inbound. But what is your suggestion to a new founder who are starting a new agency or a new SaaS startup to bring more inbound leads, or do you have like a PDF book or ebook which you can share with our listeners, which list all these agencies which bring, leads on the commission, something like that?
Yeah, there's a couple different resources. Again, depends on the industry, right? We have some exclusive NDAs that we'd not be able to disclose those companies, unfortunately. But as far as like if you do the search, what's going to happen is even actually if you don't do the search, here's what you can do. Here's how I found these companies. Okay, um, multiple steps. First, how I learned the sales is actually very simple. I didn't know any sales 4 years ago, and I just started reverse engineering my competitors' process. Okay, I started calling my competitors, finding out how they're selling to learn how to sell, and then I also started like looking at how they advertise. I would type in like app development services, look at the Google ads, and see how my competitors are advertising, and then just pretty much in some ways even copy some of the ways they're selling, right? To figure out my own way. There's this book called Steal Like an Artist that
Yeah.
explains how to like quote unquote steal well. It's not exactly stealing because you will add your own thing on top of it. Nobody can steal perfectly, right? One pixel to pixel. That's not the way to go. I mean, some people do, but that's the wrong way. You can just get inspired by somebody's work and just like do your own spin on it. That's how I would do it. But also on LinkedIn, be active on LinkedIn. If you want to get your B2B business, especially off the ground, be as active on LinkedIn as possible, meaning not just outbound, but even like just getting your profile set up well. If you put in on your profile, founder and CEO of XYZ company, I promise you'll get so much outreach by these lead generation companies every single day. And what I would recommend to people is, from my experience, the moment you put in founder and CEO of XYZ company on LinkedIn, lead generation companies will reach out to you, but don't fall for those that will ask you for monthly payments. Make this kind of a deal with agencies. Actually, I've refined it a little bit after the book of Hormozy, but here's how he does it and how I'm doing it now. You got to make a deal with lead gen companies that you will pay them only factually when they bring in a qualified lead. So you'll pay them per lead. You'll not pay them a monthly retainer. Okay. And then you can agree also on extra payment that they will teach you how to generate leads as well, the way they're generating. Okay. Like if one agency doesn't agree, another one will agree. But it's totally okay to ask agencies. You would think, yeah, that's their bread and butter. They're not going to open up their secrets. And you're right. Most companies will not. But some companies will. Like I made this agreement, I'll tell you recently. I was talking to this SEO agency and he offered me his services of SEO. And what I told him is, well, I don't like to outsource, but I will pay you for consulting if you teach my guy how to do what you're doing. I'll pay you extra. So his monthly retainer was $5,000. I'm paying him $7,000 a month instead. But for $2,000 extra, he's teaching my internal employee what he's doing, and in 3 months we can do everything in house.
Wow, that's literally transferring the knowledge.
Yeah, and you would be surprised how people would agree to that if you just make a good deal with them and promise them that you're not going to go into their business because they're in a lead gen business. You're in a different business.
Yeah.
If you tell them, hey, I'm going to keep this to myself, I'm not going to sell your services to somebody else. This is just for me. It's all about how you do structure the deals, right? But that would be my other recommendation for people. Try to keep as much knowledge in-house as possible. Do not outsource too much, because if you keep outsourcing and that agency goes out of business one day, what are you going to do? If you're relying on that agency or business to provide you leads and then they close down, what are you going to do? You have no business then,
Yeah.
But if you keep it in-house, then your guys have that knowledge, right?
Interesting. But that is, I must say, Sardar, that this is going to be one of the best episode I've done in season 3, because a lot of information what you have shared right now is what the founders are looking for, because they struggle with lead generation, with getting inbound leads. So I think this is gem. So just before we get into our lightning round, the last bit I would like to ask you is, you know, throughout your experience, there must have been valuable lessons learned. We have gone through all these companies, acquisitions, and all. If you don't mind sharing, could you reflect on your experience and tell us about one mistake or a setback, that you encountered along the way, and that you now consider not a regret, but a lessons learned? And what advice would you give our listeners based on this experience?
Yeah, there's been quite a few, but if I remember one of the recent ones last year, we were growing like crazy,
Mm,
and to keep up with the demand, we started hiring like crazy as well, you know. And hiring a lot of people when the things are really good is
mm,
actually dangerous, because actually staffing correctly, staffing smart, is actually one of the biggest issues in every human related business. Like, you talk to hospital owners, they'll tell you the same. You talk to
mm.
agency owners, they'll tell you the same. Problem is sometimes they will overhire, and they'll have too many people, and then sometimes they'll have not enough people because they have more business than they have people for, right?
Yeah.
So one very practical advice I will give.
Mm,
What we had to do is, we had to hire a lot of people when things were good, and then when the sales slowed down a little bit, we had to lay people off.
mm.
Now what we do is, we don't when the demand goes up, we don't necessarily hire new people. What we do is we take the additional project, but we pay the developers and designers and everybody extra for them to take a second job
Mm.
after hours inside Jafton. You see?
Oh, who doesn't want
So
extra money?
yeah, temporary it's like temporary staffing, you see.
Yeah.
What happens is, you tell them, hey, our sales is up. We don't want to hire additional people. These people are already trained, and they know your business better than any new employee would know, because new employees, you have to train them, right? These people, you don't have to train them. And
Exactly.
the thing is, most employees, they take second jobs, and developers, they take second jobs anyways, right? So why
Mm,
not give them a second job at your own organization, right?
mm.
And then if the sales slow down, you don't let people go. You just tell them, hey, now just work less hours, normal hours. Sorry, we don't have as much stuff. Then you don't have to lay anybody off, right?
There you go. It's like it's like you have shared two gems today with me,
Yeah,
with all of us.
yeah,
This is
yeah. I'm glad
amazing.
it was
It's
helpful. Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, I'm definitely going to use that in future when I need it. Great stuff.
yeah.
Okay, great. So we should wrap up now. So we're
Awesome.
gonna go into this lightning round. I've got six quick fire questions for you. So just answer them as quickly as you can. You ready?
Sure. That's it.
Great. Um, what's one attribute or characteristic in your mind of a successful founder?
Persistence.
Persistent. I agree. What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
Digital Fathom AI
Oh, okay. What,
for
what is
Zoom.
it?
It's a AI note taker that records all your calls and also summarizes them, and
Uh-huh.
then it can also create an email follow up after the meeting that says, "Hey Ash, we talked about this and this and this. This is what I
Mhm.
promised you to send after the call," and it summarizes everything as if you wrote the email.
Wow.
It's an AI
Phantom,
tool. Yeah,
Phantom AI, yeah?
it's Fathom. Yeah, without the N. Fathom AI. Yeah,
Okay.
Fathom.
Okay, great. What's a new or a crazy business idea you would love to pursue if you had time?
Yeah, my one of my ultimate goals is to build a social media platform, but for based on the voice technology. Like, know, it's like
Mm,
Twitter for voice, like you're able to post audio clips and things like that. But with my
mm.
own spin, like I want to let people use different voices of celebrities and things like that to make a post. So yeah.
Huh? Nice. Nice. Great. What's an interesting or a fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Um, tough one. That's a tough one. I'm pretty open book actually, so most people probably know a lot of things. Sometimes people do get surprised when they learn I'm an immigrant from Uzbekistan.
Mhm.
Um, But I wanna one day I actually want to build my own farm and grow my own food.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're
Yeah.
interested in farming also then?
Very long term, not right now, but one day, when I'm more settled and things like that.
Yeah,
That's just counterintuitive because you think of me as a tech person, but actually, I
yeah,
want to be less techy like that and just do my own farm. Yeah,
makes sense, makes sense. And the last but not least, what's one of the best business advices you have received?
one of the best business advisors. There's many, but to name one, would probably be hire for attitude, train for skill.
Hmm. Hire for attitude, train for skill.
Yeah,
That's very deep and
this.
very, very good. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because attitude is something that's irreplaceable, but skills you can always acquire.
And acquire. Yeah. True, true. Great stuff, Sardar. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story, unpacking the last few years of building the business and some of the ups and downs along the way. And thanks for the golden gems you shared. It was
Of
amazing.
course. Yep.
If people want to check out Jafton, how they do it, what's the website,
Just
how
go
they
on
reach out?
jafton.com,
Mhm,
jafton.com, or
mhm.
you can find me personally on LinkedIn. That's Sardor Akhmedov on LinkedIn.
Awesome, great stuff. So before we end this interview, is there any one tip you would like to give our listeners which will change their life?
Yeah, I feel like there have been many different tips. I mean, nothing's going to change their life until they take action.
Yeah,
But one thing I would suggest that would apply to everybody and anybody is just build the right set of habits in your life. Just the systems, right? Systems that are set of habits. There's this amazing quote by James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, that says,
yeah,
"You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." And that would just apply to everything. And if you actually see my background right now, there's this frame right there. So right there. It's hard to
yeah,
point for me because it's like uh, it mirrors, but you see how that person is falling to their systems. You fall to the level of your systems always.
mm, got it. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your
Yep.
inspiring journey and impactful work you're doing through Jafton. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on Founders Podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Ash. I enjoyed it.
Great. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of our SaaS Stories podcast. I hope you found our conversation with Sardar insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to our podcast and stay updated on future interviews with proven founders and industry experts. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and keep building.